What's up, everybody? It is I, Tevin El Chapo. Friends call me Chop, and we are back with another episode of Chop Logic. Yes, the show where I, Chop, get to the logic of things in my own special Chop logical way, something like that. Thank you so much for joining us today on this episode. If you haven't done so already, why haven't you done it? Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You know what I mean? This is the only way that you can actually watch all the episodes that we have. This is the best way to engage with the content as much as possible. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media at the Chop Logic Podcast on Instagram. You can follow me directly at Tevin El Chapo. And don't forget to comment below your favorite moments of all the episodes. So we are here today to talk about the legal landmines in videography. Yep. So legality is a big thing in what we do in terms of videography, right? One of the biggest things you don't want to do is get sued. All right. You don't want to get a lawsuit. You don't want to be in nobody's courtroom, at least not me. All right. So the biggest things that you always want to keep in mind in terms of just legal landmines and just the legality of everything that we do and, you know, just all the different aspects. We're going to kind of just touch on those here today. Right. So first things first, you always want to have some type of contract. All right. Let me say that again. One of the first legal things you want to keep in mind is some type of contract of what it is that you are doing for a service within your videography business. All right. So that contract can be just something as simple as an invoice that has all the detailed descriptions of everything that you're going to be doing. It could be an outright contract where people have to sign it and agree to it. And it could be literally anything, but it's just some type of paperwork that verbatim describes your services, describes when you'll be doing the service, describe what the deliverables are going to look like as well, describe the price that was agreed upon between you and the client, and have all that documented and copied in for your own personal references. All right. Because you never know when somebody's going to try and hit you with some foolishness. All right. I'll give you a great example. I had this one person, I will just say person. They essentially wanted me to do more work than I was supposed to be doing. Right. So I quoted them a set price based on the conversation that we had. First of all, I quoted them a real price. And there's reasons I don't want to give numbers because I don't want any type of legality situation getting hit. So, you know, I hit them with an initial number. They decided that that wasn't something they wanted to pay. So they decided they wanted to pay a lesser amount for a lesser amount of work. And I detailed everything that they were going to get on the invoice. I sent it to them. They agreed to pay it. They paid it. And then they proceeded to try to get me to do 1,000,001 different things. And I had to be the one to address the fact that, hey, everything that you are supposed to be getting within this service is already outlined in your invoice. Everything that you're currently asking me for is not included in what you paid for, because they were constantly and progressively bringing up the money that they spent. Right. So imagine a world where I didn't have that. Imagine a world where I just said, hey, cash at me some money, and I'll come out and do whatever it is that you need me to do. And then there's no paper trail. And then if they get mad, they can just sue. Come on, man. You got to watch yourself. So definitely having some type of contract in place of what it is that you should and shouldn't be doing. Even if it's like a payment agreement, that's another piece of legal paperwork that you want to have. You know, if it says that you should be paid by net 30, net 45, net 60, which, first of all, I just want to say, I personally don't want to go with nothing past net 30. All right. Net 30 already is crazy. So once we get to net 45, 60, 180, what did I do exactly that I got to wait that long to get paid? All right. So I would always combat that. But again, that's part of the legal paperwork. If you sign something that says net 180 and it takes you 180 days to get paid, well, you signed it and you can't fight against it. You can't sue nobody for it. So you want to be mindful of that. Always read what you're given as well. Not only giving your own paperwork, your own contracts, but also understanding what is in the contracts that are being given to you. You feel me? You don't want to be caught with your pants down. You definitely don't want to be caught in a net 290, a net 360, a net 365. And you definitely don't want to be caught in somebody's courtroom. All right. So just, stuff like that, you always want to keep in mind. There's so many different ways and different places that you can go to get legal paperwork done. I do all my invoicing through HoneyBook. HoneyBook has amazing resources for, different contracts and things of that nature for, depending on what services you provide. You can also do stuff like LegalZoom, or you can even have like ChatGPT write something up and you just have like a lawyer oversee it. Or if you do have a lawyer already, just have them create the paperwork for you. There's so many ways that you can just have some type of like contract in place, some type of like formal agreement in place for what is and isn't allowed and what you are and aren't going to be doing, right? There's too many resources at this point. So there's no real excuse to not have it in place. Even if you do get Cash App some money, have that in the contract to say payment will be accepted via Cash App or Zelle or payment on this invoice. And they put their information into the invoice, whatever the case may be. So, these are all just legal things that are here to protect you, right? I was put into another legal situation where, due to a conflict on a previous project that I was working on, I was thrown into a litigation, right? I was served paperwork that essentially I needed to be doing a cease and desist on my services to a specific project because one of the project leads decided to leave it, right? And because of their relationship with the other people within the project, I had to essentially stop what I was doing, allegedly, right? Here's the problem. I have my own lawyer. You know what I'm saying? I know lawyers with an S. So I took that cease and desist and automatically took it to them. And they told me that the person who sent it to me was crazy. All right. So realistically, it couldn't hold up. But just to protect myself, I went ahead and terminated my contract with that current entity and just renewed another one with the people that were still part of the project. Right. So it was just kind of like a workaround to make sure that there was nothing that really could have been done in that situation. Right. At the end of the day, you always want to protect yourself, not only with paperwork, but you also need to know somebody in your corner too. So I'm not saying having a lawyer on retainer is something that you will need, especially if you're just starting out, because lawyers cost money. But I bet you know somebody who's in law school. I bet you know somebody who works at a law firm. I bet you know a lawyer casually somewhere doing something. All right. You'd be surprised. You ain't got to know 10 of them. You just need one that will talk to you enough to give you some type of legal insight the few amount of times that you may need it. Because realistically, in the ideal world, you would never need a lawyer to do anything. You know what I'm saying? You never want to incorporate a lawyer into any of your real situations, because realistically, if you're incorporating a lawyer, that means you about to get sued or you about to get to the bag. One of the two. All right. So either somebody offered to give you 1.5 M's and you're like, you know what? I need somebody to look over this. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody is about to throw you in the courtroom. You know what I'm saying? So those are like super special situations that don't happen as frequently as you would like, especially the 1.5 mils, right? But you always want to have somebody in your corner that you trust, even if they don't do or practice a certain style of law that may be beneficial for your situation. They should at least have a general idea of what you're going through for you to at least talk to them about it. And lawyers hang around other lawyers. They can refer you to somebody else. All right. At the very least, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like one of those situations where, having great relationships will definitely help you along these types of journeys, especially when people try to put you in a terrible position business wise. Right. So again, you don't want to necessarily put yourself in a position where you are sued or a cease and desist is put into place, or you're essentially having to freeze your operations, or you've been subpoenaed for anything. All those things are awful. And awful processes. And, this is not a political podcast, so I'm not even going to tell you how I feel about the American justice system, but just know it's not in your favor if you look like me. So you definitely don't want to be in court for anything. So just making sure that you mitigate that as much as possible with great paperwork, great relationships, not only with your clients, but also with your lawyers, and providing the best service possible will always just kind of keep you out of harm's way. So those are some of the biggest things. Also, just knowing in terms of like copyright and things of that nature, copyright is one of those things that is super, super delicate now more than ever, right? Especially if you're doing content for somewhere like YouTube, where copyright is going to be one of the biggest words you hear frequently, right? Every time you upload a video to YouTube, they always have to make sure that it's not getting hit with any copyright claims, meaning that you're not using anything that's outside of fair use. Fair use pretty much explains that you can use things for satire or you can use things for critiques, but you can't actively use anything that you do not create or you do not own and try to make money off of it, essentially. So like, let's say if I think the first episode of this podcast, the first episode of this season of the podcast, we did kind of like a reintroduction where I played a Gucci Man song, right? I got hit with a copyright claim. Now, because I wasn't playing it outright, they kind of gave me some leniency, right? But at the same time, it was still a copyright claim because I don't own the song. I don't know Gucci, you know what I'm saying? As much as we from the same area, you feel me? All those things are different factors that kind of just made that a tough thing. But if I were to go to Gucci or go to Atlantic Records or wherever he signed to and ask for permission to use his music in the video, then I'll be perfectly fine. You know, you could also do that. You can definitely just literally ask for permission to use anything you want, right? 9 times out of 10, they're probably gonna say no, especially if you're not willing to spend money, but couldn't hurt to ask either way. Same thing like with if you're doing like a faceless YouTube channel, right? And you're talking about certain topics like the NBA or something, right? The NBA owns all the footage of the NBA, right? So if you're using highlights, if you're using correspondence from other people like Stephen A. Smith or things of that nature, the NBA, ESPN, these corporations own all that footage. So realistically, every time you use it, you have to acknowledge that it's not yours. You do not own it. You have to acknowledge the purpose of why you're using it. And if you do any of that incorrectly, you will be hit with a copyright claim. And if you do it enough times, the corporations directly will tell you to cease and desist. All right. I've seen it happen before where somebody was using multiple clips from the NBA and to the point where they got a letter in the mail saying that they had to stop or they would shut down their whole YouTube, you know? So it's just things like that. You got to keep in mind. You never want to put yourself in any legal situation because at the end of the day, these are always tricky situations. So even if you feel like it's a layup in court, like, oh, I'll go to court for this. Okay. Let the judge have a bad day and then look at your face and don't like you. You're done. You feel what I'm saying? Again, I'm not going to go too deeply into the American justice system, but just know there's a lot more favoritism in it than you would like to believe. So again, putting yourself in any situation where you got to endure that is definitely not going to be the move. All right. So like I said, there's many different avenues of which you can get legal paperwork. Like I said, you can rely on ChatGPT for stuff like that. But what I will say too is that whatever you get ChatGPT to do in terms of legal paperwork, you definitely want to have somebody to look at that. Do not go off ChatGPT and then be like, okay, read it yourself, someone who isn't a lawyer, and be like, I think this is fine. Because then you're going to jail. You're going to jail. All right. They're going to find a cell for you. Okay. You do not want to just trust ChatGPT with your life. All right. So like I said, you can do that just to have like a quick outline, but definitely have a lawyer in place to actually look at what you are putting out to people. All right. And that's why I say even just going through somewhere like HoneyBook that already has all these resources already in place. If you go through like certain platforms of, you know, even like the Professional Photographers of America, PPA, they also have legal contracts and paperwork, you know what I'm saying? Once you become a member that you have access to, you definitely want to keep a lot of those things in consideration at all times, because again, you don't want to be in court. All right. Unless you just like that. And if you like it, then you better than me. All right. But I'm not here to be in court for nobody. So, you know, these are just like some legal landmarks you want to kind of keep in mind. Again, some of the things you can avoid, you can use original music. You can use original footage. You can, you know, as the owner, it's the same thing, you know, copywriting your own work as much as possible, watermarking as well. Setting out the guidelines of how your content can be used and not used is also important. So you want to make sure, like, the same way you're not using somebody else's stuff, that somebody isn't using your stuff. Because I've had that happen before, where somebody took my stuff and tried to promote their content business, which I think is dumb, because at the end of the day, you can't do what I do, I can't do what you do. So why would you do that? And I didn't even know the person. It wasn't even somebody that I was cool with. Because like if it was a homie, I'd be like, all right, go ahead and do your thing. And then if you get the job off of that, I'll help you figure it out. But I don't even know you like that. You just using my stuff straight up. Again, having like paperwork that show like, okay, this can be used for this can be used for that, this can be used for the third, but it can't be used for anything else. All right, make sure you outline that, because people will find the wiggle room to use it for everything and anything under the sun that ain't got nothing to do with you. And then, you know, next thing you know, they playing your music video that you shot in a courtroom during a RICO case, which honestly could probably happen anyway. Part of the reason why I don't do music videos no more. So again, you want to protect yourself on both sides. You want to make sure that you're protected from anybody trying to, you know, misuse the stuff that you shoot. You also want to make sure that you're protected from being misused in the process of creating anything that you shoot. And you also want to make sure that you're not properly mishandling anybody else's content for your own purposes. You know, there's some leeways, like, you know, when Lil Wayne was doing mixtapes, he was rapping over other people's beats. Obviously, he can still do that, but he didn't make money off most of those projects. It wasn't until recently a lot of this stuff ended up on streaming, because I'm sure Lil Wayne got money and lawyers, right? So it's the same thing. It's like, I can't personally put a freestyle of me rapping over a milli or whatever on streaming, but I could probably put it on YouTube just for the sake of, you know, saying, hey, I don't plan on making money off of this. So using things for, I guess, not even like promotional, but just saying that, hey, this is not something that's being used for any type of monetary gain. This is just something I creatively want to put out. That will also lend some credence and some leeway against you getting hit with any copyright claims. So you still probably get hit, but it wouldn't be enforced as badly, and you more than likely wouldn't get sued for it. But again, you have to emphasize that you're not making money off of it. You never plan to make money off of it. And then you have to guarantee that you're not making money off of it by not doing anything nefarious, like trying to make money off of it later. Okay, so don't do that. Don't steal somebody's stuff, run off with it, say you're not trying to use it to make money, and then try to make money off of it. Again, there's fair use if you're trying to do a critique or you're trying to, you know, do a review of something like that. That's considered fair use, but fair use is a real fine line, especially on outlets like YouTube. So these are just some of the few legal things. I'm not a lawyer. I want to make sure I say that as well. So I would highly suggest, if you are a videographer or a creative in general, to consult a lawyer of any capacity throughout anything you heard on this episode, anything that you think you need a lawyer for, just in any part of your life. If you feel like you need to sue your local grocery store, anything, all right, you just consult them with that. All right, so just wanted to hit you with a few main points in terms of like just legal landmines, especially in the videography business. Again, these are just like super light notes that we just kind of wanted to reach and just kind of make sure that we are addressing as much as possible. So if you have any questions, like I said, consult a lawyer. But we are going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to get some trivia. Stay tuned. This video is sponsored by Chop House Media Group. Now listen, podcasting is hard, all right? There's a lot of moving parts to a successful podcast, whether it be the shooting side, the post-production side, the audio mixing and mastering. Just having the right strategy and know how to even get this podcast in the right places and getting it into the right positions to get monetized. And that is where Chop House Media Group helps out at. We have coined the phrase, the podcast in the box, where we pretty much facilitate anything and everything that you need to run a successful podcast, between the production, the post-production, the strategy and tips and tricks that you need to be 1,000% successful in every single aspect of your podcasting career. Now, if you are interested in being a part of this and making sure that you get your podcast to the next level, whether you are just now starting out your podcast or you are already in the podcasting field but want to take it to another level, be sure to hit the link below and schedule your free consultation with us to make sure that we get your podcast up and going further than you can ever imagine. All right, again, thank you to Chop House Media Group for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the show. And we're back. All right, so you already know what time it is. Laptop is closing, and we are here for our trivia section of the episode. So usually how this goes, I get trivia from my producer, Tevin. If he was here, today we have my good friend, Jason, in the back. Say what's up, Jason, real quick.
What's up?
And he's going to be giving me 3 trivia questions. Now, if I get 2 out of the 3 wrong, I had to give you, yes, you, the audience, a cash prize. So how you get selected for a cash prize is real simple. See, first and foremost, you got to be subscribed to the YouTube channel. Secondly, you got to like this video. Third, this many, you got to comment below your favorite moment of this episode. And then we will randomly select someone from the comment section to win the cash prize. So we go ahead and get started. The questions will be related to this. I hope they are not overly legal because I'm not a lawyer, like I said before.
All right. The first question is, you recorded footage of a local event with branded logos and store names in the background. What legal risk does this present in commercial use?
Cooked.
Is it A, trademark dilution, B, artistic fair use, C, non-compete clause, D, breach of contract?
What was A again?
Trademark dilution.
Dilution? What were the other ones?
Artistic fair use, non-compete clause, and breach of contract.
I'm going to go C.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
That is incorrect.
What was the answer?
The answer is trademark dilution.
Trademark dilution?
Yep. Trademark dilution.
Do you know exactly what that specifically means?
So I guess in like context of the question, like you recorded footage of a local event with branded logos and store names in the background. What legal risk does this present in commercial use? It's essentially like if you're including things, but it's not being represented in a way that the brand wants it to be represented. That would be my assumption.
But if they just in the background, you can't help them being in the background. That's like saying if I went to Ben and Jerry's and shot something that was not directly about Ben and Jerry's, right? And then I'm eating the Ben and Jerry's and say, hey, this ice cream nasty as shit. Who the fuck made this dumb? Then I shouldn't be cussing on this episode. I'm sorry. But you get that will feel more like trademark dilution, right?
That would be more like misrepresentation. Like if you basically you're taking it upon yourself to like have an opinion like on camera and present that about a brand, that would be like a misrepresentation because it's not coming from the brand. Dilution, and this is all just assumptions, to be honest. But I would assume that trademark dilution would be like you're diluting like whatever their branding is supposed to be. So it's being presented not through their lens in some way, shape, or form. Like a lot of brands want to control every channel of their trademark or their brand. But
what I'm trying to understand is how does that dilute the brand if it was just shown like a logo in the back of a video? Like how does it dilute the brand that they also had a brick and mortar next to whatever business I was shooting at?
Brother, I'm not a lawyer.
Good answer. That was the real answer. Neither one of us is lawyers. I don't like that one. But all right.
I mean, I just looked it up and it says trademark dilution weakens the capacity of a famous trademark to identify and distinguish goods or services, even without customer confusion.
But again, how does that apply to them just seeing the logo in a video that had nothing to do with the brand?
So it says dilution is a trademark law concept giving the owner of a famous trademark standing to forbid others from using that mark in a way that would lessen its uniqueness. So I think as with any law, is open for interpretation. So,
yeah, because I'm like I would also say even like let's say we were shooting with like Coca-Cola or whatever, and we like scribbled around the logo to make it look different or something.
But you're shooting with Coca-Cola, so that would have been with their approval.
No, I'm saying like if we were shooting with Coca-Cola in the sense of like we're not shooting for them, but we just so happen to have it.
Oh,
You feel
like
what I'm saying?
having Coca-Cola on a
Yeah,
set.
like okay, like we're drinking Coke, but I crossed out the word Coca-Cola on the can or something like that. Wouldn't that be trademark dilution?
They might take you to court, brother.
Yeah, for that. But what I'm saying is like, again, that's not the same as like, oh, I'm shooting in a city at this particular building that just so happens to have a Coca-Cola store right next to it.
See,
How am I supposed to avoid that?
I don't think law is ever like black and white. It's a spectrum of gray. We wouldn't have court if it was just black and white. We could just make the decision. So I'm saying like it's a lot open for interpretation.
Yeah,
And this isn't even saying like what it is. This is saying what legal risk does this present? Like the risk. So it's like a possibility. So it's not like, I shot this in the video. Now I'm getting like, a cease and desist. It's like possibly that someone can come and actually file this, possibly. Because it's open for interpretation.
the American justice system is whack, but all right, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
But it definitely was a non-compete.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Let's go.
Hey, this is the first time, man.
I know.
Now you gotta get these next two.
Yeah, it's tough. We gotta go 2-0, and I'm already not a lawyer. So let's do this.
All right, which of the following would not typically require a signed release? A, an interview with a client for a testimonial. B, footage of an individual on private property. C, B-roll of people walking in a public park used for an internal pitch. D, scripted dialogue recorded with actors.
Gotta be C. I'll be mad if it ain't.
It is C.
Thank you.
All right.
Say, ain't no way. All right, yeah, we didn't talk about releases. You gotta, anytime you're using actors or anyone who's knowingly going to be on camera that's in a non-public setting, especially, you gotta use release forms as much as possible, right? Meaning that you can release their likenesses, their looks on camera to be used for whatever commercial use that you have. If you don't do that, you run the risk of being sued or being taken down. That's also happened before. Shooting things without release, especially when we're doing internet content, can lead to real quick and easy people saying, hey, I didn't ask to be in this. So just having a release form is another form of contracts, forms, paperwork that you should have to protect yourself and everything that you're doing. All right, we 1-1.
All right, let's get it. Final question. Which of the following scenarios most likely constitutes copyright infringement? Is it A, filming a short dance routine in public with music playing in the background? Is it B, using a royalty-free track from a site like Artlist or Epidemic Sound? Is it C, including copyrighted music in your video because it's under 30 seconds? Is it D, licensing a song through a music library for use in a paid client project?
What was the question again?
Which of the following scenarios most likely constitutes copyright infringement? So the first one is A, filming a short dance routine in a public with music playing in the background. B, using a royalty-free track from a site like Artlist or Epidemic Sound. C, including copyrighted music in your video because it's under 30 seconds. D, licensing a song through a music library for use in a paid client project.
I'm going to say C.
Well, you protected your money again.
God damn it.
That was correct.
The suspense was crazy. But yeah, so even the example I gave earlier with the Gucci Mane song we played in that first episode, again, I wasn't playing it in the actual video. I played it on my laptop and my microphone picked it up, right? So I got hit with some copyright, but because it wasn't outright in the joint, I was able to essentially keep the video up, if that makes sense. So you will get hit with a copyright claim. Like, let's say if you did like a flash dance in public and somebody was playing a song that you ain't know nothing about and you could hear the song, it'll definitely be flagged. But you are 1,000% going to get flagged for putting the song outright into the video, like incorporating the actual song itself into it without permission. So Woo, boy, we got that was another shaky one. I ain't gonna lie, it almost had me, but we survived another day. Like I said in previous episodes, listen, man, I don't come up with these questions. I don't know nothing about these questions. I don't know how they frame them up. None of this before we start recording. All right, so you are live seeing my reaction to these things. So be sure to hit up Tevin if you got a problem, because I don't have nothing to do with it. And you know what I'm saying, that's pretty much it. You know, thank you so much for joining another episode of Chop Logic. If you learned anything from this, please be sure to subscribe for more episodes, like this video, comment below your favorite moment, and also don't forget to consult a real lawyer, okay? Because I still don't know what that trademark disassociation, defamation, declaration, proclamation, I don't know what that is for real, and I'm about to look that up, all right? But be sure to consult a lawyer no matter what. Any legal questions that you have, anything that you put into, don't go off of anything I just said and then be like, okay, that's it. Go talk to a lawyer. All right. So thank you so much. We'll catch you on the next episode. And as always, I'm wishing you the best. Peace.